So you just work in class?
Grow over just over like 200,000 by the end of the year.
That first year, we ended up closing on about 10 deals, and we ended up doing about 105 in revenue.
Be slow to hire, but super quick to fire.
One bad person can ruin a lot of work.
What method were you guys doing?
We're still doing.
All right, guys. So today we got JC and Mike on the podcast, and they're going to be talking about how they've gone from 30 to 40K a month to having $114,000 projected in the pipeline to close, and just basically their journey from starting in real estate to closing their next six-figure month. So, guys, welcome to the podcast. Where are you guys located at right now?
We're out of Vegas.
Dude, Sin City. In 2022, I was like just going back through my notebook the other night. I went to Vegas 7 times.
Dang.
I don't know why I went there so much, but yeah, it was a place I was living a little bit, sadly. You guys just recently moved there, right?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Yeah, about a month, I think. About a month and a half.
What brought y'all to move there? Like, why'd y'all want to move there?
Honestly, just I like California. I love the weather. I like a lot of stuff about it. Just the state itself is not necessarily a place like with some things going on, that I feel like I'd want to be long term. Plus, I don't know, change of scenery. Vegas is pretty cool, better tax incentives, things like that. So plus we want to start kind of building a portfolio out here too.
Any like reason for like the UFC? Because I know Mike does martial arts and beats people up for fun.
Honestly, no. I mean, training out here is cool. I do miss my gym in Orange County. But I mean, Vegas is like the hub for, MMA and UFC and stuff like that. So definitely you get to meet a lot of cool people out here. I mean, every other dude out here in the gym seems like, he's in the UFC, but definitely a cool place.
Have you been to any of the events out there?
I haven't yet. A couple of my buddies have fought, T-Mobile, stuff like that at the Apex and whatnot, but I actually have not been to a UFC event yet. So that is still on my list.
Do you think you'll get to fight in the UFC? Is that like your goal?
I mean, it'd be something. Get a couple more amateur fights in, and then go pro and just kind of see where it goes. I think I definitely. That is a job in and of itself. 100%. So doing that and building a business at the same time is like, you're going 24/7. But it is something that I could definitely see myself doing 100%.
Yeah, dude. I wish I fought because I wrestled in college, but I never like really got into the martial, like the fighting side of it, the combat, or like more combat side. But it's so fun, dude. I just like miss like the grappling. It's like the rawest form of competition. So I don't know if anyone, Jason, you want to fight? You and Mike have to fight?
Yeah, but we did recently.
He hit his first jiu-jitsu class on Monday. So yeah, he jumped into it.
What'd you think?
It was fun. I like it. I used to wrestle, so I mean it was a long time ago, but it was fun. I like it. I just don't like the fact that I can't feel like my neck still, but it's all good.
The thing you always forget about is how sore your neck gets from wrestling or rolling. What do you guys like? Walk us through your business. Like, when did you guys start out? Like, what's your model? How are you guys doing deals right now?
Yeah. So we started, it was probably about 2-ish years ago. Mike, was like 2022?
Yeah, like 2021 or 2022.
So we started like early 2022, I believe.
You know what it was, 2022.
And we started in college, so that's where me and Mike met. We started kind of a classic story, like out of our dorm room during COVID. So it was quite the time, quite the experience. And from there, we started doing deals and kind of just went all in and trying to figure out how to grow this thing, because we got a deal within our first, I think it was 2 weeks, right?
What method were you guys doing?
We were just doing SMS.
Oh, just texting?
Yeah.
That's sick.
And it took about 2 weeks, and it was kind of like, once we got that, it was cool, because it's like, I've never done anything like this, and that's like my first like hit at growing a business. And it kind of just was like, well, why am I in school? And that was kind of the mentality we had. And then we just pretty much from there went all in and trying to figure out how to build a business and, build a team and grow this thing to the moon. Cause we were sold after we did that first deal. I call it delusion, but I feel like we saw something.
Delusional optimist.
Yeah.
Did you finish? Did y'all graduate?
No.
I didn't that look in your eye. Definitely is not someone who has a diploma. That's for sure. I don't either, dude. I didn't make it through.
It's not for everybody. So.
I don't know what you guys did, but for me, I just like stopped going to class and then like forced my way out. Is that similar to what y'all did, or you just kind of like?
I went to class, but we just worked. Kind of just treated it like a fancy WeWork we were paying for.
So you just work in class?
Yeah.
Were you ripping cold calls in class?
Yeah, before we actually like stopped going, like we would just kind of go, like I don't even know what classes we were going to, honestly. I just knew the room, and we would just be doing paperwork, doing whatever in the back. We'd have to step out for like take calls and stuff. It was kind of just like we weren't present for class really. You know what I mean? So
You guys did your first deal in school. It took you a couple weeks to get it, doing SMS. Obviously, you're slinging deals in the back of the chemistry room. What happens after that? Like, kind of walk me through the first year, second year, of like leaving school, going full time in it.
Yeah, so I'll take the first year, and then Mike, you can go ahead and kind of explain the rest. But so that first year, we ended up closing on about, I think it was about 10 deals, and we ended up doing about, it was like 105 in revenue. And kind of after that, we're like, I mean, really after the first deal, we were sold. But after seeing like, we're a bunch of college kids that are making 100 grand without, it really didn't feel like trying that hard and really not knowing what we're doing either. We're like, man, if we can do this like without having like a team and really without having like the knowledge of how to properly do things, like what can we do if we really like focus on this? So our first year was just it was really sloppy, like really all over the place, just kind of going forward and figuring things out as they come, which was a great learning experience, but it was all over the place, but it was great. So I wouldn't change a thing about it.
yeah, I mean, moving on from that point, like second year. So second year was when we kind of started to, I would say roughly about halfway through the year, we kind of, we tried to get away from like doing deals and actually trying to focus on building a team, because we can do deals all day long. You can do every part of the business, obviously yourself, but you only get so far, and you can only scale so big that way, or really not scale at all. So I think probably about halfway through our second year, we made our first hire, which was our SMS manager, who does like all our texts and everything like that. Before that, and like thinking back now, it's insane. I don't know why we didn't make that hire sooner. Like me and him were literally texting the sellers back from our phones, from our computer during class. You know what I mean? So we didn't have any type of script, absolutely any. So like no system set up. So looking back, it seems kind of crazy. I'm like, why did we take that long to even make that? Like, it doesn't make sense. So, but we made that hire, halfway through our second year, freed up a ton of time because we weren't just texting all day. So we could focus on a lot of other things. And he's still with us today. He's been with us just over probably about a year and a half. So made our first hire, kind of focused on building a team. We almost doubled, I think, or actually, no, we did double what we did in the first year and our second year. I think we broke just over like 200,000 or something by the end of the year. Still, again, trying to focus on building a team, trying to figure out, hey, like what parts of the business can we like delegate, automate, remove ourselves from, which I think has been like, since joining your guys' mastermind and everything, has been a big part for us, is learning how to build a team. Obviously you take lumps with people that you hire, maybe they don't work out, maybe stuff happens, but that's part of building a team. I think with you guys, like you guys have been able to definitely help us out in that. So I think right now we're just in the scaling phase, trying to figure out how can we maximize revenue, cut costs where we can, and just grow as much as possible.
I know me and JC were talking like a little bit before the call, just about like hiring the wrong acquisitions person. Talk a little bit about like what you guys feel like you learned, and like kind of like the lessons you took moving forward.
And I'll kind of say this is like, as far as like lessons we learned, I think as painful as it was to make a bad hire, it's a good lesson to learn, because, we made a hire and we did the training. We followed the process to a T, I think. And we really put our effort into it. But I think the two lessons like we got from it was that we can't change somebody's like personality. The guy we hired was just not putting in the same type of effort that we needed him to put in and day out. And we were trying to almost change how he was going to do that, when realistically we should have fired him, a lot quicker than we did. And kind of the ramifications of that was, having not so great months following that and slowing down how we were scaling, because we were scaling really fast at the beginning of this year. We hired him, and then we had probably 2 months of just like trying to pick our feet up and get going again and get it back to where we were at the beginning of the year. So luckily we're able to kind of make that transition back and train some of our team a little bit better and focus more on our current team rather than hiring somebody else. But it's been such a learning experience that, one bad person can ruin a lot of work put in if you don't manage and take care of your business like that.
And just to echo off of that, we hired a sales manager or sales director one time. Well, actually, we did it twice. same mistake twice, fool me once, fool me twice, shame on, the shame on you thing, whatever. But yeah, like literally our revenue instantly cut in half, like immediately. Just one person went in there and like all your profit is completely gone. And that shit sucks. Painful. But to your point, like that's like I honestly spot on is like I don't care about someone's experience nearly as much as I care about them as a person. And like because if you find the right person and they're a high achiever, then they'll learn like how to do the job. Like you guys, it took you 2 weeks to get a deal from nothing. Like no knowledge, no skill set. No one, maybe you had someone teaching you like the thing how to do it on YouTube, whatever, if you guys paid for coaching. But generally speaking, you guys had the right characteristics and you did it in 2 weeks. So like you hire someone, give them y'all's game plan, like it'll work right away if they're the right person.
Yeah, and I think that's like when it comes down to anything in this business and maybe even business in general, I don't know. It comes down to like your will and personality. Like if you want it bad enough, like I personally believe you want to do anything, as long as you believe in yourself, like, and you just have the drive and will to do it, you can do it. So, and I think finding the people for your team that have that, what's going to push you to the next level. And that was kind of the mistake we made. And, we're just not going to make it again because that hurt.
Yeah, this shit does hurt. Anytime you make a mistake like that, it's like the pain you remember. You're like, dude, I don't want to feel that again because it's just like you got to work 10 times harder to correct it. So what changes you guys did make? I know we talked and you guys had like moved your lead manager up to like acquisitions. Is he working out now? Is that like still a play you guys are running or what you guys learn from that?
Yeah, he's still actively doing acquisitions. We're slowly kind of like phasing me out and he's kind of like slowly taking over. He's been doing pretty good. He's gotten quite a few contracts since he's like kind of started full time. So, I mean, he's definitely like picking up a lot. And one thing about him is like, even if like, when he started working with us, like he didn't have any real estate knowledge or anything like that. But once he kind of like got into it and was actually bought into the company and kind of like into the game, like we saw his performance go way up, right? Obviously there's stuff that you got to work on, you still got to daily train stuff that you got to get better at. But that kind of goes back to, like you said, well, what type of person are they? Like, are they going to work harder? Are they going to not? That kind of just goes back to that. I mean, the personality and things like that fits. Like, yeah, he might not have all the knowledge just yet, but he's willing to like learn and he's bought into it,
When you say like you had to get him bought into the company and like the growth and all that kind of stuff, like what did you do in order to like get him bought in?
Yeah, so I think for us, because he was only working with us part-time starting out, he had another gig. I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but he had another gig that he was doing. And we went to actually it was when we moved to Vegas. So we went to a seminar here in Vegas and stuff like that because we part of other masterminds and whatnot. Brought him to that event, and I think for him, he got to see like that, because all he saw at first, right, is you're just working from a computer at home talking to people, right? But like once you see other people in person and, go to the event and meet it becomes more real, at that point. So I think that was kind of the turning point to where he was like, yeah, like I really want to do this and, I really want to work with you guys. And then from that point, he was full time, moving forward. And then he was still a lead manager at that point. He had let us know, obviously he did want to move to acquisitions, which we had trained him for and kind of, slowly prepped him to do that, which is why he's there now. But I think for us, that was probably the turning point and kind of like when he was like, really, really bought in.
That makes a lot of sense. I feel like it makes sense because when I go to events like that, I like feel bought in. I'm like, damn, like this is the shit, you need to work harder or whatever you feel. So like I don't think everyone would get that. I think at the end of the day, like if he was the wrong person, he could go to any event he want, but he wouldn't like necessarily be like, oh, this is like exactly what I want. Most people would probably like shy away from it and be like, that's a little too much for me. So That's good. I like that. And so what are you guys doing now as far as like, how does y'all's business work? Like, what are you guys doing for like lead gen acquisitions and like, what's your model built around there? Like, are you guys wholesaling, flipping, wholesaling just for everyone listening?
No. Yeah. So right now we're still doing SMS. SMS is a main staple of it has been since we started. We're also, doing paid ads, Facebook ads, things like that. So that's kind of like our two main lead gen sources, really just focusing on that. I mean, we try to keep it 50-50. Again, SMS is still a good staple, but we still try, obviously inbound is, they're typically better leads, right? I mean, everybody wants inbound leads, right? So we try to keep it 50-50 between SMS and paid ads. And that's kind of like what our lead gen model looks like right now.
And you guys are in like a lot of markets, right?
Yeah, we're in, I think, 33 different like counties and areas last I checked.
Talk to me about how this works because like there's I mean, I know like Ryan just messaged me and asked, like, you guys, do we have like an attorney or title company in Chicago? And it's like, you guys are always dealing with deals and like all these other places. So like, how does that, from like a back end perspective, like a dispo perspective, like, is it like, do you guys see it being easier on acquisitions and just trying like one place, or is it harder on acquisitions and like vice versa on dispo? Like, how do you guys see, like, have you tried only one market, and like, do you have like a comparison of the two, or like, what do you guys see from that?
And from a dispo perspective, I'll let Mike share acquisitions after, but from a dispo perspective, it is a little bit harder, but it's not impossible. Like we've obviously lived in California and done deals in Florida for 2 years. We started in Jacksonville. So, I mean, doing that by itself, doing deals across the nation is like, once we learned how to do that, it's kind of like, okay, you just change the city name and then figure out all the same steps is kind of how I think about it. So every deal has its own, things that make it complicated and whatnot. So, but I just take it deal by deal. I don't really think, as long as it's not like because there are markets out there that aren't the best. I'm not gonna say trash, but aren't the best.
Which one's your least favorite market you've done?
My least favorite market? We haven't sold a deal there, but I really don't like Detroit.
I just you were gonna say that. I don't know why. I just knew that was gonna come out of your mouth. I have no idea. I just feel like everyone hates Detroit.
Simon fees are small, but I feel like as far as like just other markets, like we have a deal, like we've closed deals in Vegas, Florida, Virginia, Chicago, North Carolina, all in the last couple months. And it's really like, I think leaning on people in your network who are in those areas, as well as just sometimes you got to figure it out, and it is what it is. And there, if somebody does a deal in North Carolina, it's possible. So, I can figure it out. It's not that big of a deal.
I like the way you guys, because I never like knew, you guys were kind of the first people who really, you and Brian showed me like the way you guys were picking markets and stuff using Investor Lift. Honestly, I think that's super smart. Cause like the idea I always have and like teach people is like, if you're displaying on MLS, like find the demand, like low days of market, high median home price, low months of supply, and then like pick those markets because that's where the demand is, at least on, with that exit strategy. And I think it's in general, it's really solid, but you guys are like doing the same thing, but just like using Investor List data, which I think is like super smart as well. So like talk a little bit about like, what are you guys doing when you look at market data and like research new areas to go into? So I think it's like super interesting. I think it's honestly a super good strategy.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we were looking at new markets to take on, there were a couple things I took into account when I'm looking at these. One is population. I absolutely hate deals in small towns. They always seem like a pain. So
what's a small town to you?
Small town, anything under 100,000. Realistically, like if we're talking like realistically, probably like anything under 50, but anything under 100 just seems like it's a lot harder to sell a deal. So basically, I mean, the population was kind of the first thing I was looking at. If it checked that box, great. And then I used Investor Lift's data as far as like how many flips were going on in that market. And I took the top 50 counties and looked, okay, this is how many flips happened last quarter in that county. And we took, I believe we took the top 50, tried them out, and then just trashed the markets that, we didn't get anything in, or just the leads were not kind of up to our quality.
So you literally just picked like the top 50 most volume flipped locations and then basically just trial and error it. And if it worked, then you kept doing it. If it didn't work, just like, screw it. We'll do it later maybe. Yeah. Anything else that you guys did like to go into it, like to try to figure it out? That
was pretty much it. Like it was really raw.
When you looked at the leads and like all that kind of stuff, like what were you looking for to like basically say, nah, this is like not worth it, like on a lead side?
I think main thing is it rural or not? That's one thing. I mean, even with, even picking those counties. So like you can have, let's say 10 to 15 counties of whatever, major metro areas, 500K plus people. But what we started running into that I feel like a lot of people probably don't know unless they're actually doing paid ads is like you can get somebody, let's say, that lives in Los Angeles, but they don't want to sell their property in Los Angeles. They want to sell their property that's in wherever, middle of nowhere, Kentucky, right? So it's like, I don't want that one. I want the one in Los Angeles, right? But that's not the one they're wanting to sell. So that is one thing we ran into. That's one thing that we had to kind of get pretty strict on is like, hey, we started noticing like, hey, we're getting some rural stuff, which isn't a ton you can do about that, honestly. Like, because again, the markets that you're like targeting, the person does live there. It's just they don't want to sell their, property in that county or whatever. So just being quick to disqualify, being like strict on really what you can move. That was like the main thing. Because it really comes like acquisitions is the same on the front end, really, no matter what city you're in, right? You're talking to a person who may or may not be in distress that wants to sell their property. The script's the same. How you deliver it's pretty much the same. I mean, other than, obviously certain areas they might talk a little bit different, have different slang, whatever. Other than those very, very small like nuances, acquisitions is the same. I'm talking to this person. I want them to sign a contract. Now, obviously, where that changes is like, what area is it in? Is there even buyers in that area? Do people flip in that area? What do the investors want in that area? What are the laws in that area, right? Like, I remember we locked up our first deal in Chicago. I didn't even know it was an attorney state. Like, we had to figure out how to do title, you know what I mean? Like, all of those things. So all of the issues typically come on the back end, and that's what you kind of have to account for, when you're locking stuff up.
That makes a lot of sense. So like kind of like thinking about streamlining the front ends, like maybe there's certain, I don't know if this is like what you guys track or like how you see it, but it's like, all right, if we target LA County or Orange County or whatever, for some reason, a lot of those, it kind of makes sense. Like they invest out of that market because it's cheaper. Like you're not going to buy rentals in LA, but people who have rentals to sell or, property to sell wherever in the country. And so maybe like, you're like, like we don't want to target that because these people actually don't sell the properties here. Is that kind of like how it actually is? Or like, does that like, or do you still get like deals in that location and it's like still worth it? Or does it kind of just depend?
No, we still definitely get deals in those markets. Like, I mean, it's obviously in certain areas, it's a little like you might not get like California, right? We don't get California leads every day, right? We do get some, but it's not like a ton, right? Like every once in a while, I'll get one in San Bernardino, got one in Camarillo the other day, beach area, real nice. So we'll get those, you know what I mean? But obviously you just have to account for some of the rural areas that you might get, right? But we're still getting, you're still getting leads in the areas that you want. Like, it's not like we're just, all day long getting rural stuff, but you just do, like I said, I feel like a lot of people when they start that don't realize that. And that's something we didn't think of and we didn't account for. But I mean, the deals that we are closing from it in major metro areas, I mean, I'll deal with the couple rural ones that I have to look through and disqualify or whatever.
No, that's like, I think everyone's fears, like when they move into a new market, they're like, oh, like the sellers are different in Texas than they are in like, North Carolina, Nevada versus California, whatever. And like they are a little bit, but like, have you noticed like from talking to people in California and then people in Florida, people in, North Carolina, like, is there like an actual stark difference or is it just pretty much the same, like just talking to people?
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, there people, California typically, do the people that you talk to aren't as nice, right? Same thing. I mean, here in Vegas too, like, so, it's kind of a mixture. Some sellers are cool. Some sellers are, maybe you don't want to talk to those guys. Like they're not nice people or whatever. But I mean, that's kind of like, if you're going to do that nationwide, I mean, that's kind of what, that's kind of the name of the game. But at the end of the day, like, it really just comes down to like, how good are you at dealing with people and sales, right? Because your avatar, yes, might be different in every market, but the process is going to be the same. So, if you're good at sales and you're good at dealing with people and can read people a little bit, then, you shouldn't have an issue. And that definitely shouldn't be like a reason that stops you from going into another market. Like, I could see there, obviously there's reasons that some people don't want to go into other markets and some might be valid for whatever their business model is, right? But it shouldn't be because like, hey, the people in California are mean, right?
JC, from your perspective, because like obviously you deal with the back end, and like one question I have is like, one, why would you say someone shouldn't go into a new market? Like, what would be like the cons, and like why do you think people should go into multiple markets? And this could be for both of you guys, and then also like JC, just like I'm just curious like how you run through all, like obviously I understand like the process of like going to find a title company, like vet them, finding new buyers, like all this kind of stuff. Like the dispo process definitely seems like a nightmare to like ramp up, but then once you have it kind of like honed in, it'll be like really easy or easier, so to say. But yeah, who is going into multiple markets for?
Yeah, so I would say on the dispo side, it's a little bit of a nightmare sometimes. And something you'll run into when you expand is that like the sellers may be the same, but the investors are very different from each other. And a good example of this is when we first jumped markets, because we started in Jacksonville. The investors over there in Jacksonville, Florida, very picky. They want their cake and they want it to be nice and they want to eat it too. They want everything perfect. But then we moved to Tampa and investors are a lot more hungry for deals because there's just not, I don't know what the volume is over there, but if it's a good deal, they'll pick it up. And so I've really noticed that like in different areas, there's different buying criteria. Like out here in Vegas, the first deal we sold out here didn't make sense for what we would wholesale in Tampa or Orlando. But, we kind of just threw it at the wall to see if it would stick. And we made a ton on that. And it was just kind of a test because we didn't know how investors acted in this market. So I would say definitely like it is harder on the disposition side. So keep that in mind when you move into new markets. But from a disposition side, like if you want to move into new markets, become friends with people who are doing deals in that market, and it'll really benefit you because you can just, if I have a friend who's in, let's say Vegas, right? I can call him up. Hey man, do you encounter this? That's been one of my biggest help, is just being able to rely on a network and other people who do deals in those areas to really, cut my learning curve down. But if you don't have a network and you're just starting, like stay in one market. Don't overextend yourself because it's a pain.
Yeah, you have to, because like you also have to have a good feel for like kind of how like demand works. I think in any business, like you're trying to follow where the demand is for like the people that are gonna make you the most money, or like what people want. And like I've noticed the same thing too. Is like even in like, for example, in like Metro Atlanta, if you get a deal in Marietta, Georgia versus in like Conyers, those two different cities, they're gonna exact same thing. Is like in Conyers, got to be a good deal. In Marietta, they'll pay whatever. No one cares. So because it's like all about how desirable is that location. And when you first start out, you have no idea. Truthfully, like, you're just like, I don't know, it's a fucking house. Especially if you guys are 19 and 20 when you guys started. Like you're like, dude, I just got done living with my parents. At least that's how it was for me. So it's pretty funny. But that's good advice. So start in like one market if you don't understand anything about demand, you don't have a network, and then kind of branch out from there. How did you go and build your network? Like what was some of the things you did to like really become connected?
I mean, biggest thing for building our network was really just letting people know what we do. So I think posting on social media, even though I don't personally have a ton of followers and not like famous or anything, it has helped just like letting people know what you do. Even if you have 100 people on Instagram, like that's still 100 people who all know people. So like how big is that audience really? And then going to like mastermind events, joining masterminds and just networking there has been a big help, because it really puts you in the room with the people who are actually doing deals and are in the markets that you're looking for, or doing whatever you're specifically looking for. I think that's been the biggest help, is just putting ourselves in situations where the people we're looking for are going to be there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, dude. It's like if you have 100 people who like that are that know and trust you, and then you like post in your story or whatever, and you're like, hey, I'm looking for this, anyone got any suggestions? One person is going to help you out. Like there's going to be at least one person who's going to message you and be like, I know this guy, Facebook groups, all that kind of stuff. I think that's like the easiest thing anyone could do, because I think even like when you like someone the other day was asking me, I'm trying to find like a lead manager who can like work for me and like kind of like be commission only, that I can like groom into an acquisitions person. I was like, dude, like I don't know how else you find that person who will do that unless you're like good friends with them, or like have a really good relationship with them, and like can sell them on the opportunity and like the vision of like the company and like how all this is going to work. Because otherwise there's no way they're going to like actually, you might could do that, but the quality of person you're going to get is like really low, because if they're going to work for that type of compensation, you either got super lucky or it's a low quality person, or them. And like the best one is like the people So I completely agree. Like if you don't tell people what you do, you are missing out on a lot. That's like how I've hired most of the best people, is just through relationships, referrals, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And to that point, it's funny that you bring that up. That's exactly how we found our now acquisitions manager. He was a guy who, we briefly talked to him while we were in school, and he had just been watching like that we would post stuff on our story or just on Instagram. So he'd like been in the background. And then when we posted, hey, we're hiring, he was one of the first people to slide up and actually connect with us. And now, I mean, he's almost been working with us for a year, and it came from, just posting here and there, and then, hey, we're hiring. And now we have somebody who's bringing us, 8 to 10 deals a month.
That's mind blowing, isn't it? A little bit to think about, like some dude's just like following you guys on social media, and you're like, hey, I want to hire this guy, and he's like, oh, it's me. It's like, that's cool. That's so random, but it's so cool. That's the thing about social media that I never really like understand, is when you just put stuff out there, for some reason it catches the attention of a select few people. Because like real estate wholesaling is not a very big audience. Like it's not like maybe there's a lot of people who like want to do it and like want to get into it, but people who are like actually like kind of interested in that topic, it's like not that many people in the grand scheme of the country. So when you post something on that, if it's someone who's interested in it, they're gonna like watch it. And that's like a really like valuable person to have like following you, honestly. So what are you guys kind of like working on right now? Like what's the next big thing you guys are working on to really scale yourselves out of the business?
I think right now is focusing on building out the sales team. I think that's kind of the first thing, being that is the front end of the business, working on to where we can get a couple good solid reps to where at least like I'm fully out of it. That way I can work on either other things, or we can I can help JC with Dispo. And then also probably by the end of the year, or maybe first quarter next year, sometime around then, have somebody that can probably take over for Dispo as well. So we have like a team that is semi-running on its own, right? Without us, not necessarily without us, but at least where we're not like completely immersed in the business, right? And doing like those tasks, we can kind of oversee everything, for focus on just building that team. Really, I think that's kind of like our focus for these next couple quarters.
So really honing in the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like to kind of go from about $1 million to like maybe like $1.5 million, $2 million, something like that consistently. So getting like 2 really solid like acquisitions people, and maybe like a third one who can kind of like sub in, sub out almost. Not necessarily, they don't have to be like an incredible performer, but it's like the person you're kind of like replacing to try to find someone new. It's kind of, at least for us, that's like where we had to get to in order to be doing those numbers and not have like so much risk on the business, where it's like if your best acquisition guy kind of like quits, you're kind of hosed, or if he's got an off month, you're hosed. Because as you guys know, acquisitions people are up and down. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You guys do like some also direct agent stuff, right?
Yeah, and most of the deals we've done this year are direct to agent, funny enough.
Really? So why do you feel like direct to agent works so much better for y'all than like direct to seller?
I would say it works because the agents do kind of, I almost view them like a lead manager or like an acquisitions person. They've already found the person who wants to sell, got them in a contract, and they're just kind of looking for a buyer. So I already know they're motivated. It's just a matter of, does the price work? And is this a deal that makes sense for an end buyer somewhere? So I feel like it skips like basically all of acquisition, and it's just, does this number work? So I think that's very, very helpful as to like why it's working. And then just as far as like why we do it is, we kind of fell into it on accident. We met a good agent who brought us a ton of deals, and I think he brought us like 7 deals within like 2 months of meeting him. And they were all like 20, 25K pops a piece. So that's kind of how we fell into it.
So it was just like a random direct to seller lead that was a realtor, and he just like he was like, I have deals, and like you guys like made it work basically.
Yeah, we had gotten the property under contract before we actually knew he had signed with the realtor, and then we had found that out. I guess the seller was like kind of confused, like he thought I was with the realtor, and like this whole thing, he kind of like was upset that he had signed with us, and so we were kind of worried that the deal wasn't going to close, right? This dude was pissed. He was screaming at me on the phone and stuff like that. Once he kind of like, I was like, hey, we need to get inside. He's like, well, who are you? And I was like, I'm the buyer. So went through a whole thing, and he's like, well, I thought you were with the agent. And so I was like, well, what? I didn't know there was an agent. So I had to track the agent down, right? Shot him a call, said, hey, like, your seller had signed with us, that he didn't tell us that he was with you, and kind of, what can we do about this type thing. So ended up closing the deal. Dude was super cool. And, he was like, hey, like I get a bunch of these fixers and whatnot. He worked for a brokerage that focused a lot on, investment deals and whatnot. So, he brought us a bunch of deals from basically that deal forward. And he lists some of our novations too that are in his market. So super good contact for us.
So basically from that, you're like, oh, this guy, like, we did a deal with him. Was it right away you guys started like trying to work with agents, or did it take a little bit of time until like you maybe did a couple more deals?
Probably a couple more deals in. And then we're like, hey, like this guy's bringing us deals. Why don't we try to also find other agents that can bring us deals in other markets too? Who's
like building the relationships with the agents? Or is it just kind of like call them, text them when they have a deal, give them an offer, and kind of keep going from there? Like how do you guys kind of run it from a high level? Yeah, we do. So we'll do like lists. So we'll obviously text them, do SMS campaigns. And then obviously the ones that do bring us deals, even the ones that don't. So we do
like auto campaigns for all agents. Even if, like, let's say I make an offer, it doesn't work, cool. I'm still going to have them. I'm still going to be texting them, because just because they have one deal now, maybe that doesn't work, doesn't mean maybe next month they won't have one that, might work for us, right? So usually, like, I'm the person or the acquisitions guy is talking with the agents, making the offers and things like that. The ones that we do deals with, we make sure, like, hey, we, stay in touch with these people. They might have some more. But regardless of what happens with that conversation, whether it is a, offer accepted or an offer rejected, or maybe the deal just doesn't work for us for whatever reason completely, they're still going into a monthly, weekly, whatever campaign, to where we're still hitting them up, because we want to be top of mind whenever they do have a deal. They might not get them every day or every week or whatever, but if they have one couple months down the line and I'm the guy that's been texting them, right, every month, every week, whatever, like, I'm going to be the guy that they're going to send it to, right? But if they don't hear from me, they're not going to call me. So we make sure that we have that automated, and we stay in touch, and we try to stay as much as we can top of mind with those agents.
Do you think, like, what percent of your deals, and might be a complete guess, I don't even know if you guys track this, but what percent come from, like, the first text when, like, they're like, okay, hey, I have this property, versus, like, follow up?
I actually don't know. I think with agents, it's mostly all the first text. As far as, like, sellers, we have some deals that are first text, or, like, first time they submit the form online. So I think it kind of depends on what type of lead it is. Like, if it's like a paid ad lead, if we're not closing them the first try, it's probably not happening. But if it's an SMS lead, we've done a handful of deals from, 10, 15 follow-ups, but it's not like we're getting a ton of follow-up deals. It's mainly, I would say, like, first text kind of deals.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like the agent model, because I feel like it's, one, you could potentially get multiple deals from people. Like, you have the one guy sends 7 deals. And then 2, it's super cheap. You don't have to, like, spend very much money to actually acquire those deals. And they're cleaner too. Like, they don't have title issues. You don't have to deal with, well, I'm sure that some do, but, like, generally speaking, you probably don't have to deal with as many title issues and all that kind of stuff. And you don't have to deal with the seller either, which is, like, a huge weight off your shoulders, honestly.
I was just gonna say, because like they do kind of all the legwork for, which makes it a little bit easier. Like, obviously, with some agents, you still got to manage them during the escrow, depending on if they've done an investment deal or not before. But it definitely does help that, they kind of do the legwork. And for, at least for acquisitions, like, because an acquisitions call can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to over an hour, right? With this, it basically comes down to, like, hey, can we get this for a number that works for us or not? If we can, great, I'm going to write that offer. And obviously, I want to build rapport with that agent. I want to make sure they like me, so they go to bat for me with the seller. But it's not like I have to spend, over an hour with them on the phone, walking them through that sales process and trying to persuade them and all those things. It's really just, hey, if these numbers work for us, these are the benefits that I offer. Let's see if we can get a deal to happen, right?
So you like talking to agents more, it sounds like, Mike.
I do. Sometimes they're, depending on which market it is, it's, they're not the funnest to talk to, but it definitely, I would just say it's more cut and dry, right? You don't have to go through, like, the sales process to where it's like I make them an offer knowing, they're going to reject it. And it's like, hey, let me see, let me talk to my manager. Let me see what I can do. Put them on hold, come back, right? You don't have to go through all of those things. You basically can just talk with the agent and kind of be like, hey, this is what I can do. And you don't have to play as many games necessarily with a lot of the agents. With the seller, it's like you're playing a game, right? You know what I mean? Like, you got to take them through the sales process. You have to play the game, make them feel like they won. With an agent, you don't necessarily have to do that as much.
What are you doing the agent stuff in every market as well, or is it just in, like, a couple markets?
That one's just a couple markets. So, and we have the ability to do it in every market, but we've tested, like, Arizona, North Carolina, but we've seen the most success with it in, like, our main market, Florida and Nevada. We'll do Texas as well, but I mean, that one, we haven't really gone the whole nationwide type of model yet. I don't know if we will, but I think definitely keeping it small for just areas we really like has been really beneficial for that.
I feel like with agents, at least this is my understanding of people who I know who do it, and also just, like, kind of understanding the way it works, is, like, you want to be pretty confident in your numbers. Like, if you're just guessing, like, not that, there's enough agents where it's like, if you mess it up a handful of times, like, it's not that big of a deal, but you don't want to, like, be throwing out numbers that you can't actually close on, because it's just like, you have a lot less time. There's usually a little bit more earnest money at play. Like, the risk is a little bit higher. You also just, like, I feel like to convert, the value is is, maybe I'm wrong, but like I see a lot of the value is like the guaranteed offer for those people because everyone else like always retrades. I don't know if that's like how you guys do it, but that's at least what I've heard.
We haven't had to retrade a whole lot of direct to agent deals. I think we've done like 2 where we've retraded, and it was the last one. One of them was the last deal we closed, but it's not too common with direct to agent ones that we're actually getting price drops and whatnot. Because like you said, you have to be way more confident in what number you're putting, because typically an agent's asking for shorter inspection period, more earnest money, and they're like on you every second of the day to do the smallest of things. So when you deal with them, they're on your back a lot more. So you have to be on top of things.
You can't just be lollygagging around. Take like 2 weeks for you to buy her out there.
Yeah.
Just have to get a deal.
Yeah, you have to be on top of it.
Sweet. Well, guys, we're running up against time. I think this is super valuable. If you guys had to leave one thing with the listeners, people who are actively doing deals, trying to like replace themselves out of the business, maybe they're doing 30, 40, 50K, or even, maybe closer to 100K a month. What would you guys kind of say is like some lessons you've learned that would be something you keep in mind? Basically, like y'all's advice you'd leave with?
I would say be slow to hire, but super quick to fire. That's at least a lesson that I think we learned recently. When you're trying to build a team, we kind of saw the effects, as we talked about earlier, of what it can do to your revenue and what it can do to your business. So, your business at the end of the day, like that's, your pride and joy, right? That's what you're working, whatever, hours on hours on end a day. So be careful who you let into that business and that circle.
That's fucking good advice, dude.
And I would say definitely like wherever you're at in the business, no matter what you're trying to do, what your goal is, don't overcomplicate it. Things are typically simple and not super hard, but it may be difficult to do. So don't overcomplicate it and don't spend a ton of time thinking, just do, and you'll figure it out as you go.
I like that. I always like think about, this is like process stuff. It's like, how can I like make this process so simple that like a monkey could do it if the monkey had to do it? And I think that's like a good frame. But also you're right. It's like, it may be simple, but it's not easy. And then Mike, to your point too, I think like for me, what took me a while to learn is like, I've always heard people say like, it's easy, like, or hire slow, fire fast. I feel like now, like I never like truly had context on that until like it happened to me the first time, which is like, oh, like I understand I should fire fast if they don't match the characteristics. Like you can't, like you kind of mentioned, like you can't change someone. To me, like that was such a hard, like it was a hard lesson to learn because it's so hard to fire someone. It honestly kind of sucks, but especially if you let it go too long, then it's like even harder. At least that's how I am because I'm too nice. But anyways, guys, this was super fun. Appreciate you guys for being here, and I will talk to you guys later.
Sweet. Thank you for having us.
Yes, sir. Hey guys, so really quick, I want to share some results from our recent client survey that we did, where we found that we added an additional $196,693 per year to our clients' businesses. And this isn't by telling them to go and spend tons of more money and bloat their business just to get their revenue numbers up. No, this is going through a simple 7-step process that we call the guide to growth that helps them go and make more money in their business without having to spend another dollar. All we're about. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about what this guide to growth actually is here on my screen. All right, guys. So taking a look at the guide to growth, it's honestly super simple because all we have to do is troubleshoot in your business to find out where the actual problem is. And since we've broken it down into 7 sectors, into a wholesale business, into a manufacturing line, lead to net to appointment to offer, offer to contract to sold deal, and average deal size, all we have to do is understand compared to industry standard, compared to our clients' results, where do you stack up? And then for something as simple as deal sizes, if you're not 10% of median home price, then you should be able to get it to 10% of median home price. So if it's $350,000 like in Atlanta, your average deal size should be $35,000 plus or minus a little bit. And so if you're not, we're going to identify that. We're going to come down to the guide to growth and understand where the KPI targets should be, what are the core variables, and what are some possible solutions. And we would do something like this, where we'd hand you an SOP and hold your hand and implement it with you step by step on how to buy deals for less, how to sell deals for more, and how to flip higher price point homes so that you can increase your average deal size and release your bottleneck. All we're going to be focused on is growing your company without spending another dollar. And so if this is something that you're interested in remotely at all, where we'd come into your business and show you exactly how we'd implement the guide to growth for you, then all you need to do is go down below this video, click the link to book a call with our team, where we'll walk you through step by step on our roadmap of how we grow your company utilizing our process. So if that's interesting at all, go down below this video and click the link, book a call with our team. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.